It's Debbie Potts, and I am bringing you Dr. Elizabeth Bright back on the podcast to talk about hormone health as we age for men and women. So, the show is not just for women, guys. You need to probably listen as well because we can all learn something new to help improve the aging process. As the goal on this show is to help you be fit and healthy from the inside out as you age. So we really want to personalize our programs, but a lot of things that we can improve on are what we eat, how we eat, when, why, but also what supplements do we maybe need that we don't get enough on in our food. And then I call the holistic method, it's stress management, as we'll talk about how stress impacts your hormones and also prioritizing your sleep, movement throughout the day, exercise, the Goldilocks effect for everything, right? Not too much, not too little, the right amount that's not causing you excess stress and oxidative stress, and also digestion, gut health. And I want to bring up some of those questions today with Dr. Elizabeth Bright, as we had a big Q&A session a year ago on the YouTube channel, and you can go back and listen to that one. Had tons of great information, but we had so many questions. And so I asked Dr. Elizabeth Bright to come back on the show today to dive into some of your top questions, including iodine and iodine for Hashimoto's. And we talked about, do you need fiber? Was a big question. Fiber for gut health. And is carnivore diet useful to rebalance hormones in different stages of life for women, perimenopause, and then postmenopause? Some questions about dairy. Is dairy bad for me? Should I have any dairy or have aged peas as raw milk? So looking at that. And then I had some questions from athletes about carnivore for athletes, if there's anything she wanted to add in there about pre-workout, if we're doing a carnivore diet, as we find when we age, our workouts, again, might change a little bit. We don't want to blame the aging process, but embrace it and make some adjustments, some changes to how we train, how we fuel, nutrient timing, and love to pick Dr. Elizabeth Bright mind about workouts, what to eat beforehand if we don't want to do fasted workouts, because that's another stressor for a lot of us. So here she is. Let me bring her on and we'll answer all those questions you've had the past year. All right. I know everyone's been looking forward to this video. Dr. Elizabeth Bright, thank you for coming back on the show. It's been a full year and we've have Q&As session part 2 a year later, as you are so popular and everyone is so curious about thyroid health, and you are becoming expert on nutritional therapy, thyroid health, and how we can improve all our hormones. So thank you for coming on your evening in Italy.
Yes, it's about 5:15. Thank you for having me back. It's nice to see you.
I must say, because you're in Bari, is that where you're located?
Body, yeah, the bottom of the Italian boot.
Yeah. So I
The heel
just
of the
found,
boot.
FYI, a new TV show thing on Amazon Prime is Cooking Channel in Italy. And there's episode 2. They're in your town. So it's like, oh, that's where you do your
Oh,
paddleboarding.
yeah.
So you can find it.
Yeah, that's it. That's where I do it.
Nice. So I know you've been busy since we last talked about your book. Talk about kind of what you've been up to, and we'll dive into our Q&A session today.
Oh, well, I'm starting on the thyroid book and just working with patients and paddleboarding as much as I can, trying to take care of my grandson as much as I can. We're actually going to be living part-time in Scotland, so we can do that.
Fun. So what's your motivation, your drive to keep you getting into this thyroid health? Why do you feel it's so important?
Because it rules every function of the body. So actually, the first thing that's formed is after the endoderm and the feet, there's not even fetus yet, is the thyroid. And the thyroid actually grows the rest of the body. So every tissue in the body is follows from thyroid hormone causes the development of the tissue. So you can't like, I don't know if you've heard of dermatomes, how dermatomes are the spine, when, when there's a little tiny fetal spine, all the tissues are connected and then you grow. That's why you can have referred pain in different tissues very far away from the spinal nerve. And it's kind of the same thing with the thyroid. The thyroid regulates every tissue in the body. So if there's an issue, it could be any tissue in the body.
Yeah. Well, what goes so wrong with thyroid? Why is low thyroid so common, or Hashimoto's? And what do you think is kind of the main factors that impact
Well,
our thyroid health?
iodine is one of them. The iodine insufficient, deficiency in iodine is only getting worse. There's so many substances that I talk about in my last book, Good Fat is Good for Girls, Puberty and Adolescence. Are there many, many substances that interfere, that prevent the absorption of iodine? And we talk about anti-nutrients all the time as carnivores, they're spinach and that will prevent zinc and iron absorption, but there are so many substances that will actually prevent the absorption of iodine. Added to that, there isn't any iodine anymore, because it used to be only goiter belts. 100 years ago, it was goiter belts where actually the soil didn't have enough iodine, so the animals weren't eating it, so we didn't get it. Now it's way beyond that. It's everywhere because of fluoride and PFAs and all of these substances that are inescapable in our environment. So yeah, everybody's iodine deficient.
Well, let's just dive into our questions, because that's what everyone kept asking about. What about iodine? So we can go into the role of iodine in the body, kind of touch on a little bit with thyroid health, signs of deficiency is different for men versus women, when to take it, what to take, how much, and Hashimoto's was a question a few times. So let's kind of,
Well,
where do you want to start?
okay. Sure. I just wrote a long article and Judy Cho published it on her
Carnivore
website about that whole thing about why doctors say you shouldn't take iodine if you have Hashimoto's. It's not true. You should take it, but it's quite a long story. But iodine is important for every cell in the body. It's an antiviral, antifungal, it's an antibacterial, it supports our immune system, and it is a heavy metal chelator. So the 50,000 supplements people are taking, they don't need if they have sufficient iodine. Breast fibroids are caused by iodine deficiency. Cancer is caused by iodine deficiency. Uterine fibroids, it just goes on and on. So Lugol's is what I recommend because it is the easiest to take. Lugol's drops. It has to be what used to be called 15% is the actual Jean Lugol recipe. There's available 2 and 5%. I recommend 5%. You can take 2%. You just have to double the drops. Insufficiency. I mean, so you could be sufficient. If you are sufficient, 2 to 4 drops should be enough for your daily needs. But the problem is most people are insufficient. So how you figure that out, that's usually I know there are a couple of labs in the US, one lab actually, there's a 24-hour iodine loading test, right? I don't expect anybody to do that. You could do a simple patch test, see how long the iodine lasts on your skin. Practitioners know how to, I mean, when I have patients, I give them that information, tell them what to look for. But iodine, the thyroid takes what it needs, then what else is left, the rest of the body takes it. So we know that the thyroid needs a minimum of 6 milligrams when you're sufficient. The breast need 5 milligrams when you're sufficient. So we're already miles away from the 150 microgram RDA, which is confusing everybody.
Yeah. And is that the same for men?
Well, they don't have breasts.
Yeah, I
mean,
know,
maybe
mine
they
is the
do,
breast.
but breast tissue. No. So, okay. So the difference between male and female, or, it's more body parts, right? So body parts that need iodine are thought men have prostates that needs iodine. The reason why adolescent women pubertal girls have issues would be without enough iodine is because those the building of sexual characteristics is really directed by thyroid hormone. So puberty is driven by thyroid hormone. It is regulated by thyroid hormone. If you don't have enough iodine, you're going to have problems with puberty. So that's the only difference.
Got it.
So more tissue, breasts, uterus, these are two big, those are tissues that they have space, right? So prostate's a lot smaller. That's really the only reason why people with those tissues and people without those tissues would require more iodine during puberty. However, stress can also make you need more iodine. Iodine is gone if there's a lot of stress, like any nutrient.
Yes, and most people have a lot of chronic stress.
Chronic stress, yes, or just having, substances that are pollutants. That's stressful too.
Yeah, that's common. So with the iodine, Rugel's iodine drops, put them in water.
Put them in
What
water, put them in gel caps, those vegetable gelatin caps.
okay. And then what if people think like should they buy iodized salt?
No, iodized salt is terrible. Once you open it, all the iodine evaporates, and it's also it's a cheap form, sodium iodide. It's not a good form. There's actually been literature that there's been more Hashimoto since they instituted iodized salt.
Good question on that. So the autoimmune people, the Hashimoto's, you said you answered that already. They can take iodine the same amount. Do
Well,
they need
yeah,
to?
they need it. It depends. If they have Hashimoto's, how inflamed is their thyroid? So if you can have iodine and it can kind of wake up the thyroid, because what if you have nodules? You have extra pieces on your thyroid. You have like your thyroid grew another leg. That part is going to respond to the iodine. That part, if it has follicular tissue, might make hormones. The whole point is that we have to calm all that down. Doesn't mean the thyroid doesn't need iodine. It means that the thyroid is bigger and it might produce more, which might make a person feel hyperthyroid temporarily until we can calm all that down and make that extra tissue go away.
Crazy. So what would our goal be for optimal thyroid levels? Do you want to talk about that at all? Like, how do you know if
That's
it's
difficult.
low, high?
The ranges are too wide. That's easy to say. The range is
Mhm.
looking for cancer and coma. They're looking for you being dead. They're not looking for you functioning well. I think that people should be, the bottom of the range is 2.3. I think you should be at least at 3.4. The free T3 should kind of be mid-range. I'm sorry, free T4 should be mid-range. Yeah. So TSH is kind of irrelevant because half of the body's tissues don't even talk to TSH. So you've got deiodinases, which are selenocysteines, which actually are receptors that are regulating how much thyroid hormone that tissue wants, right? So deiodinase 1 is liver and kidney tissue, and that one uses TSH to send signals to the thyroid. But the rest of the tissues, the central nervous system, imagine that, so the brain and the musculoskeletal tissue is deiodinase 2. That does not send any message to the thyroid. That does not use TSH to send a message to the thyroid. If there is a substance that it's using as a messenger, nobody's looked for it. So basing everything on TSH is very irresponsible. There are plenty of papers that have indicated that TSH is unreliable. You can have a person who's incredibly hypothyroid, has low free T3 and low free T4, but has in range TSH. Now, in some places, they only test TSH. They test pregnant women, only test TSH. And we know that low thyroid function causes learning disabilities.
Wow. So I think that's where it starts from is people go to or misdiagnosis starts with low thyroid because people go get their doctor's annual checkup and they just
And they're
look
not
at
looking.
TSH. That's all they're
Right.
testing.
Exactly. That's all
And
they're
there the
testing.
range
But
is huge.
yeah, right. Exactly. The range is too wide.
So just to review, what are some signs and symptoms that you find with your patients for low thyroid? Because if people see their doctor and their doctor says you're normal, but they don't feel normal, what are you looking
Yeah.
for?
Constipation, arrhythmia, hair loss, anxiety, depression, um, everything really.
Mm.
Fibromyalgia associated with, we there's many, um, Willebrand syndrome. I mean, there's all these syndromes that are associated with low thyroid function, but they have a name and they don't really, they don't address it. They don't address thyroid. Bipolar syndrome, that's hypothyroidism.
Mm. Wow, it's just connected to everything.
Yeah,
And so why do you feel that so many people are having these autoimmune issues? That was a big question.
because if you don't address thyroid issues, then you're going to have other autoimmune issues. It's kind of the first one. So if it's not properly addressed, literally people have antibodies and doctors say they won't go down. I get them down, they go down. If it's properly addressed, the antibodies go down. So your immune system is using an antibody. It's an expression of things are not going well with the immune system. If there's no response, the antibodies keep going up, the body will have to find a different antibody, a different tissue to attack, to express the fact that something is irregular.
And you're finding that to help people with Hashimoto's low thyroid is nutritional therapy, eating more of a
Food
carnivore
is
based
very
diet.
important.
Yeah.
Absolutely, because all the nutrition, I mean, you don't just need iodine, you need zinc, you need iron, you need you don't need anti-nutrients. You definitely don't need carbs. You don't need stimulants. You don't need inflammation. It's the inflammation that is caused by the deficiencies. So deficiencies will cause inflammation. Stimulants, caffeine, sugar, fake sugars, ultramarathons, saunas, ice baths. These are all stimulating drugs. Nicotine, cannabis, they are all stimulants, antidepressants, benzodiazepines. These will all be seen by the immune system as an issue.
Mm. So the
So,
solution for most people would be, what are your top recommendations besides, I mean, carnivore diet is what you're known for. What do you find people
mm,
do best with starting out, realizing they have low thyroid or hormone imbalances?
oh, definitely iodine and high fat carnivore because the high fat, you're going to reduce inflammation, which is going to take a lot of pressure off the thyroid. You take away the stimulants, you're taking a lot of pressure off of your immune system.
Hmm. So how do people know if they're doing too much? Because cold therapy, the sauna, what would people, big red flags would they get to know that, oh, I thought I was doing all the right things, but it's backfiring. What's going on?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you don't feel well after you do these things, I mean, what the problem is cold therapy, they're stimulants, right? What
Mhm.
happens, the body sees stress as something that you're running away from danger. So it produces cortisol. But if you're chronically running away from danger, you're messing up your cortisol levels. Your body, it's chronic stress.
Mhm.
Chronically jumping in an ice bath, chronically going into a sauna is chronic stress. So it feels really good, just like drugs feel really good, because cortisol says, whoa, you're in danger. Let's run, run, run. Let me make her feel good. Let me make her joints not hurt for like, an hour because she's got to get away from that tiger. But that's not going to fix it long term. It's just going to make it worse.
And that would include fasting as well.
Absolutely. Fasting is
Mhm.
causes cortisol levels to spike, which will then cause over a long period of time uh, low cortisol levels.
So with that, all the things we talk about at like biohacking conferences, talk about cold therapy, sauna, fasting, carnivore based, animal based diet. But finding the right amount, personalizing it for someone that has a lot of stress, that has low thyroid. We need to tweak and adjust to maybe do that maybe once a week, or what do you find is recommendations for people that have chronic stress that are there? It seems like most people are just trying to do all that still because that's what they're hearing everywhere and not
Yeah.
realizing that's not helping.
Well, I don't believe in hacking. I mean, what I'm talking about is a normal human diet. We evolved to uh, hunt, rest, eat meat, nibble on meat, maybe have some dried meat in our, whatever, where we carry things, rest, draw on some walls, hunt. I mean, nobody was hacking, nobody was biohacking. Biohacking is market driven, and it's basically just another supplement to it's another supplement when just a good diet will do.
Mhm. Well, that's what I think, it's funny when we had a conference last weekend in Austin, there's one in Dallas, biohacking conference, when it's like $1,000 to go. And then every product there probably, and the trade show expo part was, I'm
Mm.
sure $1,000 a piece, to get the red light therapy and the bioinfrared, the mats and the saunas, everything costs thousands of dollars. And I think it's like most people can't afford that. We want to be health optimizers and improve the aging process. So a lot of this stuff is free, or, our nature, walking outside barefoot, grounding, things that we can do that are low cost to people are free. And then the food that we pick too is, you know,
That's
simplify it.
really important. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's making a lot of money for people, and it's not necessary. I'm always getting people off their hundred, dollars and hundreds of dollar worth of supplements, which folate. I like to talk about
fully.
folate because I talked about it in my book. It was invented in the 1940s. We don't need folate. Folate equals B12. If you eat meat, you will not need folate, but now they're testing
Mhm.
for it. So there are things that people are perpetuating, the system is perpetuating to make you think you need when you don't. Vitamin D is an animal fat. All fat soluble vitamins, the way it's supposed to work is we're supposed to synthesize it from the fat we eat. If you don't eat fat, yeah, there you won't have any. You'll have to supplement. But why not eat fat? Eat a high fat carnivore diet. If you have adequate thyroid function, that vitamin D synthesis works just fine. And K and all the other fat soluble vitamins.
Well, yeah, I just did a podcast on lard for your skin with, putting on your skin out. It's so fascinating how, products that we put on our body are just as important as what we're eating too. People forget about skin health is
Oh
an
yeah.
important
I
part.
can't I can't use sunscreen. So I'm on the water in the morning, and I actually even got my daughter bought me some tallow sunscreen. And even that I only put it on my nose because the rest of me doesn't seem to need it. And that didn't work. I got pimples. So now I look like a fool because I have this silicone thing on my nose and glasses to hold it and a hat. So when I get out like 500 meters, I put it on. My youngest daughter said, "I'm not going anywhere with you." And I said, "You don't have to be on the water with me. I'm 1K out. Nobody notices. But I have my skin is great and I don't have to use anything."
Yeah, that's why I always need to, I should try that by myself. But yeah, covering your nose and your eyes, because I swim at lunchtime in an outdoor pool, that is always, my nose is big and sticks out, that gets sun. It's like, how do you keep it out of the sun? That's funny. So going to back to the questions, we talked about the thyroid health. I think the next question is what we hear a lot about for more of a high fat carnivore type of food plan is gut health and digestion. What have you
Mm-hmm.
found with the question people always have, do I need fiber for improving gut health, short chain fatty acid
No,
production, probiotics?
no, no, none of it, nothing. You don't need it. If you have adequate thyroid function, you'll eat. I mean, I don't want you to eat fiber. I want you to eat meat and fat because that's how we evolved to eat. We don't need fiber we don't need fiber. We don't need fiber. If you're constipated, it's because you're hypothyroid.
Mhm. So what
We
about
don't
the
need enough fat.
microbiome? The
Microbiome is the carnivore microbiome is completely different from the sell you a ton of supplement microbiome. So the whole microbiome thing came from some studies done on African adolescents in the 80s. It doesn't matter that we don't have a huge variety of bacteria. We should only have the ones that we evolved as humans to have, and that's the carnivore microbiome. So basically, people who have, I mean, we did not evolve to eat fruit and vegetables or dairy. So of course it's causing problems. It's not the lack of these species. Your microbiome changes in 2 weeks when you go carnivore. And all that's left, you may have some die off, you may have some bloating because those vegetable eating ones die, but the ones that are supposed to be there for meat and fat are just fine. And vasoactive peptide is actually an enzyme that regulates the species in your intestines, right? The bacterial species, the bacterial population. And that is regulated by thyroid hormone.
There's that thyroid. It's involved in everything. That's why we need a new thyroid book. So what about SIBO? Because that seems to be popular for a lot of people battling with SIBO and gut issues, but small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Is that related to anything but what we
Thyroid,
eat?
vasoactive peptide, which I just, don't eat the
Yeah.
things that cause people say they're lactose intolerant. They're not lactose intolerant. They're milk protein, casomorphine intolerant. So there's a book called The Devil in Dairy, which makes it very, and I usually give out an article by Paolo Barsan, which explains that the inflammatory effect of 2 tablespoons of milk equal to a shot of heroin. That's an opiate.
That's a casomorphine, morphine.
Yes.
Part of it.
Exactly,
Yeah.
morphine. Yes, it's true. Sheep and goat have a little bit less, but it's still there. So you could buy, if you could eat cheese made out of breast milk, that would be fine for humans, but you can't find it, right? So raw, not raw has nothing to do with it. It's the protein that's the issue.
So that was the next one of the questions. So we can touch on that. So the role of dairy, does it make people store more fat? Aged cheese versus raw milk and the mechanism behind cheese and the weight gain part. So
Yeah,
that
I
was,
tell people to avoid dairy.
so
I mean,
butter,
if you're healing, well, no, okay. So butter
that's
has a
separate.
teeny tiny bit of milk protein. So if when you're healing, you may have inflammation, you may be sensitive, your immune system may be sensitive to the teeny tiny bit of milk protein in butter. I mean, if you've made ghee, you see the teeny, like tiny bit comes up in the pot. If you're very sensitive, if you have Hashimoto's or if you have some kind of autoimmune issue or an immune system or stress issue, because stress can cause you to be more sensitive too. That tiny amount of milk protein for that until you're fixed can cause some issues. The whole point is that over time, as you're healing, your immune system will handle it better. So it's never a perfect food, but it's it's not going to hurt you food. So for me, butter is just a good, easy way to get enough fat in for people.
Yeah, started doing that more. But so raw milk, they want some aged cheeses, sheep, goat. No,
I
yes,
don't
no.
recommend it. If you're 100% healed, if you have any issues at all, they're very inflammatory. And when you're healed, you go to Paris for 2 days and you want to have some cheese, great. But don't do it regular. Don't do it. Don't do it as a regular thing. It
And
will
what's
always be inflammatory.
inflammatory? So the mechanism behind cheese that tends to cause weight gain was the question.
Inflammation.
Kind of just inflammation. But how does it cause inflammation?
Because it's an opiate.
Because of the casomorphine.
Yes, exactly.
So suggestions for what to eat on to heal the thyroid and get rid of inflammation is sticking with more of a carnivore based diet.
That's been my
Dairy.
experience. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Very
So
simple.
I know it is, keep it simple. So their question was, just looking at my iPad, where I typed in the leaky gut any information how we can heal leaky gut? If people coming from eating a poor diet have leaky gut, does this help heal leaky gut with a
Yeah,
carnivore diet?
I don't think there is. I mean, I think the gut is inflamed, and if you take out stimulants, stress-causing foods, and reduce inflammation, the gut will no longer be inflamed.
So just get rid of what's the gasoline that you're pouring on the fire.
Yes, exactly.
So it's,
That would be a good way of
figuring
putting
out
it.
what's people insanity of doing the same thing over and over again, trying to expect different results.
Right.
Sometimes you just got to reset and look at what are you doing?
Yeah.
But I think it's, as you've said, it's not just what we're eating, it's our way of life and trying to do all these different habits that are excessive stress that we're just overloading that beaker of stress. It sounds like that's more ends up being that chronic stress syndrome side effects of that destroying cortisol is going to impact thyroid and they're connected together, and that low thyroid and low iodine will connect to all these dysfunctions in our body and the
Correct.
downstream effect.
Yeah, well, also we weren't made to go to the gym at 4 o'clock in the morning and then go to work and then go dancing for 2 hours and then whatever. We just humans weren't made to do that. We have to follow circadian rhythm is really important. You're supposed to get up around 6 and go to bed around 9. So, I mean, I'm not saying, I mean, I was young too, and I think that it's okay to do some of that, but if you do it chronically, you're going to hurt yourself, just like with
Yeah.
any other stimulant. Staying up late, staying up till 3 o'clock in the morning is as stimulating and will produce cortisol, just like drinking too much would.
So a question I'll add in there is, with functional lab testing, would you suggest people to run a full thyroid panel and measure cortisol at all, or
Salivary, only salivary, yeah.
salivary?
As a serum cortisol doesn't mean anything. It's attached to protein, so it's unreliable.
So salivary cortisol. So you're getting the measurements the 5 times or different times of
Four
the day
times.
when 4 times.
Yeah, 4 times usually. Yeah.
And that's a good way for people to start and then get a full thyroid panel. What would you include on a thyroid panel for people to order?
Free T3, free T4, and the two antibodies, the antithyroid peroxidase and antithyroid globulin.
Hmm. And with the antibody measurements, because I think this is what I've had people get confused or not confused. The doctor says they're normal again. They show anything. So do you have a
No,
range
range.
for the,
No, for the antibodies, anything that's above the range would be an issue. The only thing that the doctor says is that they won't go down. That's the unfortunate part. They will
there's
go
no
down.
solution?
You can get them to go into remission.
Yeah. So it's not forever. It's because it's not done by a pill
Right. Right. No,
to
there's
lower
no,
it.
they literally just want to cut your thyroid out. They just wanted to get to the point where they cut it because they don't think it can be addressed. They don't think the autoimmune issue will be addressed. So you can have an inflamed thyroid and not have positive antibodies. I have plenty of patients who have inflamed thyroids. To me, Hashimoto's is an inflamed thyroid. I mean, Hashimoto's was a guy who in, I don't know, 1914 took out 4 thyroids from women who had goiter, and it was the lymph tissue that was inflamed. So it's really, if any of the thyroid tissue is inflamed, you have an inflamed thyroid, whatever name, whoever
Mm.
covered
Yeah.
it.
Hashimoto's, Mr. Hashimoto. So the solution, again, just to repeat, if you have antibodies that are elevated on your thyroid panel, what should they do to start with? Just putting this
Reduce all
repetition.
inflammation. Reduce inflammation, reduce stress. The
And that
the immune system becomes autoimmune. So basically, an immune system, which is made up of cortisol, a bunch of hormone, the steroid hormone cascade, and neurotransmitters like epinephrine and norepinephrine, catecholamines, anything like you bang your knee, everything that goes to your knee when you bang it is part of your immune system. But if you're banging your knee every single hour, your immune system will stop responding. It won't know how to react anymore. It'll go rogue. So in the sense, it'll become autoimmune. So it'll be, banging, it will be banging your knee instead of you banging your knee.
Yeah. And they just have to work on reducing the sources of stress that are chronic.
Yeah.
That's what they're eating, how they're living life. And would you include breath work in there, different stress management
Breath
techniques?
work is great. Anything that moves you from sympathetic to parasympathetic tone. So we know that the parasympathetic rest and digest. Sympathetic is fight or flight. You need to get out of fight or flight, and breath work can get you out of fight or flight. Listening to music. I mean, there are all kinds of ways that you can get. You have to get your concentration of, go from sympathetic to parasympathetic. That there are all kinds of techniques to do that. And
Do you like
eating
to
fat is one of them.
eating fat? That helps gets you into more parasympathetic state.
Yeah.
Hmm. Just eating fat. Again, I know you're not into biohacking, but I like to measure heart rate variability if you had a heart rate strap, and it'd be interesting to
Mhm.
measure your heart rate variability, low frequency and high frequency and breath work to see, am I, 'cause I think it's nice to have biofeedback to learn how to shift into parasympathetic state. People aren't aware of that, but just the breath
Yeah.
work and
Yeah.
all right, or just do it by intuition, which is funny because my Aura ring just died and it won't work, and my Garmin watch. So I'm going old school and not having any data. It's like, oh yeah, intuition, paying attention to our own
How you
body and doing a
feel.
scan.
How
Yeah,
you
great.
feel.
I know.
It's so when yeah, because the problem is that people are so hyped up on stress and stimulants, they don't know how they feel. They can't feel how they feel. So when you remove all these things, you don't need all those numbers anymore because you just wake up in the morning and you see how you feel.
Yeah. That's what I think I don't know, 5 years or whenever Aura and Whoop and all these devices have really gone global, that how many people even more disconnected from how do I feel? Because now they're like, oh, I don't feel good today because my aura's readiness scores in the
Exactly.
garbage.
Exactly. Exactly.
We forget. So again, it's going back to more ancestral health, what we're
Analog.
eating. Yeah, going how,
Analog health.
yeah, it's funny. Okay, so a question on how this connects with liver health, congestion, detox. I mean, we doing need to do anything, liver detox, clean everything up,
I
just
well, thyroid health is really important for liver health. Sluggish liver is caused by low thyroid hormone. I think carnivore diet is great for taking stress off the liver.
yeah. What I think people that have poor digestion of eating meat, do you find just digest enzymes are necessary or not, or just proper eating habits?
Well, cortisol, high or low, can make you not have appetite. So obviously, carbohydrates are metabolized on the tongue in a
Mhm.
nanosecond. It takes digestive mechanics to break down meat and fat. Meat, you need acid. A lot of people don't have enough acid, and you need enough bile. You need to produce enough bile to eat these foods that we are supposed to eat. Now, if you don't have them, either you haven't been eating them for a long time, or perhaps you're hypothyroid, because those digestive mechanics are decimated when you're
Mhm.
hypothyroid.
That's what, it's funny. I've had two people recently said they went to a yoga retreat and it was all plants-based diet. And that's all they ate was more of a vegan diet. And they said they felt so good eating more plant-based. And I was thinking about like, well, maybe it's because you ate real food and it wasn't any garbage, but it was, from plants. But then they go to eating
Mhm.
meat, they feel that they can't digest it. They have problems breaking it down. It makes them feel nauseous. So it's more other reasons going on there
On my
with people.
questionnaire, I have a whole category of for meat aversion. I mean, it doesn't say that, but that's what it is to me. I mean, if you can't break it down, you're not making enough acid and you're not making enough bile, and your pancreas isn't producing enough of the enzymes. Cholecystectomies, 80% of all have gallbladder removal are done to women, and they're hypothyroid. So when you're hypothyroid, you're not making enough bile.
So order of operations to fix that. Thyroid first, or
Thyroid
to
first,
fix.
thyroid for everything. Yes, fix
Always start with
thyroid.
thyroid.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Always look at thyroid, iodine and nutrition, and then thyroid. Absolutely.
So without testing people, if they just have the signs and symptoms, if they don't want to run the full labs, if they're trying to be on a budget, just start with iodine. Would that be safe to do without
Yeah,
testing?
iodine, but you got to have enough meat and fat because
Mhm,
all the water soluble nutrients are in the meat. They're not adequate in plants.
mhm.
Iron, it's vegetables don't have heme iron. Our body can't do anything with the iron that's supposedly in spinach. So it's pretty important to give the body the raw material it needs for the thyroid, and that means food that humans evolved to eat.
And that's a good question people often ask is that you talk about the anti-nutrients in plant foods. And that's when we talk about phytates, lectins, oxalates. Oh, what else? There's one more. But what do you
Acidic
find?
acid.
Oh yeah, that one. What do you find is the good definition of anti-nutrients, or what nutrients are taken out of food, to explain to people that might not know? What are anti-nutrients?
They prevent the absorption of nutrients.
Mm-hmm.
So, like we said, spinach prevents the absorption of zinc, magnesium, and iron,
Mm-hmm.
just like all the substances that prevent the absorption of iodine, which is fluoride, tea, mint, mint balm, uh, you know, oatmeal, almonds. I mean, everybody drinking their almond milk and their oat milk and just wreaking havoc.
That's would be another question people have. A lot of people that aren't in the carnivore space think oat milk is so healthy and such a good alternative if they're not non-dairy, and oat milk and almond milk. But oat milk's pretty huge in the food
Yes,
market.
it prevents the absorption of iodine. Why are more people having issues? Why are more women are drinking oat milk? Why are more women having iodine and thyroid issues? Well, there you go.
That'd be a good Instagram post. It's huge because I go to Expo West with my husband's in the food industry, and I walk the show, and just this year, oat milk, everything. All the creamers, all the coffee company creamers, all the companies are merging, and it's it was, it's awful oat milk, but then what's in it too, because a lot of them have vegetable oils in it, or
Yeah, yeah.
awful guar
Junk,
gum and this stuff. Yeah,
garbage.
it's not good, guys. Okay, other questions we have were on Perry for more the female. I'm trying to include men on all this because half of our listeners are men, but uh, carnivore diet to rebalance hormones when they're in perimenopause, postmenopause time. Anything on that we didn't cover?
Perimenopause doesn't exist. There's
Yeah,
only
I remember you said
menopause.
that last time.
Yeah, well, it doesn't exist. There's only you have the egg producing follicles start reducing in adolescence. So, even before. So there's no way you can menopause just means that we live to be 120 or 100, and that's why we have it. So yeah, my new book, my Good Fat is Good for Women, I redid it, and it has more on uh I'm trying to be nice, the lack of necessity for bioidentical hormones. So, or any hormones that are synthetic for that matter. And yes, they are indeed synthetic. So, yeah, perimenopause does not exist. It was invented in 1980s to sell more hormones. Menopause is your all our lives, male and female, our steroid hormones are made in the adrenals. And how did they figure this out? Well, they castrated men, chemically castrated men who had cancer, prostate cancer, and sure enough, they still had testosterone. Go figure. So Fernand Labrie did a lot of papers on this until he started selling DHEA, found that the adrenal hormone cascade, 90% of hormones are made in the adrenals, sex steroids, not in the uh, testes or in the ovaries.
Gonads. Mm-hmm.
So
So
Renal health again, ice baths, saunas, overstimulation. Why aren't you making those hormones? Every synthesis from one hormone to the other is regulated by aromatase, an enzyme which is regulated by how much thyroid hormone you have.
Mm-hmm. And it's a big topic right now of uh, hormone replacement therapy and, well, just the whole peri and postmenopause. And even Dr. I think Mary Cook or someone was just on Huberman Lab. And so when you're on Huberman, he's reaching millions of people. And Peter Attia, they're talking all about hormone replacement, how we should always be on estrogen patches or taking some estrogen progesterone as we age. So just just wait, because that podcast just came out, and when he
I don't
reaches
think
like
I'll
5
watch
million.
it.
Yeah. So we don't need estrogen. We just need to support our adrenals via nutrition, eating fat, protein, animal-based diet, and taking iodine, and just
Right.
nurturing our body a little bit more.
We did not evolve to fall apart at 50, or as the continuation of that the perimenopause is not a thing. It just means you've been unhealthy since you had your period, if you had it at 12, So
Yeah.
we did not evolve to fall apart. We evolved to not fall apart, and that's why menopause is a great gift, because chimps die at 50 because they don't have menopause, and we continue to live because we have menopause.
Yeah. That's why your book had so much great history of the
Yeah.
whole. It was fascinating, stuff you never even hear about. So everyone has to for sure read the book and the new one updated. So any supplements are a big topic, as everyone talked about different, supplements to take. So you're just think we just need iodine. We'll get everything else through our food if we get rid of
Mhm.
anti-nutrients. So we don't need to supplement with omega fatty acids, get that through food, and our magnesium, other things that we can get from
We
our
need
food if
salt.
it's nutrient dense. Salt.
We need, I mean, not, we need electrolytes. We need salt. We don't need it from a supplement. Good
Hmm.
salt, red salt, or pink salt that has all of it in it. I go out, when I go paddling, I have a half a teaspoon of salt in water before I go, and at night I have a half a teaspoon of salt before I go to bed, and I put salt on my food.
Hmm. Yeah, simple. I know. It's amazing how much you need salt when you start paying attention to your body again. But I
Yeah.
can salt everything. I mean, I do coffee and I'll put salt in there. When I have steak, it's just salt. And everything I eat I put that salt on there. And I get the 10-pound bag of Redmond's real salt, and just it's it's crazy
Well,
how much you need.
especially when you're carnivore, because you're not holding on to water, because if you eat carbs, you're holding on to water. So
Hmm.
it's water retention, and the salt goes away when you lose the water. So it's especially important for people who are on a high fat carnivore diet or a carnivore diet. They need salt.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. And then for athletes, as we have more endurance athletes, any
Mhm.
tips for what to eat beforehand if we don't want to do a fasted workout, and if you're doing more of an anaerobic workout versus fat burning workout? Any suggestions there for fueling if you're more of a carnivore based?
I just have fat in the morning, and then I go paddleboarding, and my heart rate's at like 190, and I do an hour. I do 7, 8K. So I mean, it's not like running. Obviously, there's pausing each
Yeah.
time you paddle, but that suits me fine. But I'm not, if you're not well, don't do endurance sports. You have to heal first. Your adrenals have to be addressed, right? And the adrenals
Yeah.
need fat. So we know that people who have done a lot of sports may have, I mean, I hurt my own adrenals doing too much sport.
Yep. We talked about the last time we both did. That's how I got into all this. I mean, I was eating fat, but I wasn't probably eating enough, and no, we're not animal based back then when I got my adrenal exhaustion, but I was doing, a lot of endurance training. So that's kind of my goal of this show, to help people understand just because you're fit doesn't
Right.
mean you're healthy.
Right, right, right.
Yeah, your adrenals when you're exercising. So adding some fat, and you mentioned butter before, but what's your kind of pre-workout drink you like to do again?
Decaf with butter. Oh, and an egg yolk. My husband puts an egg
Yeah.
yolk down.
your egg yolk. Do you just whisk that to make it, does it make it frothy?
NutriBullet. My daughter turned us on to a NutriBullet.
Yeah.
A nice creamy cappuccino type thing.
Nice. Question though, is that plastic? Your
The NutriBullet?
NutriBullet? Yeah.
Oh, that's a good point.
I
Yeah,
stopped doing that because Mars was
good
plastic.
point. That's a good point. Well, maybe we'll get one of those, you know. We
I
don't
just
have,
was the bullet, like the whisk thing, battery, the chargeable kind.
yeah. That's a good point. I hate plastic. I
Mm-hmm.
have to explain that to my husband so he can get a different kind of thing. Maybe we'll just stomp on it like they make white wine.
Yeah, all right. That's good. Now, post workout, what do you like to do after you get done your paddle boarding? Fuel wise, do you just wait?
No, I just shower and go to work.
So that's the whole thing of nutrition. I've been trying to learn more and share, and it's individual, but so you're not causing too much stress. So you hear about, not eating enough and how eating post workout for women versus men, and should we wait till we're hungry? Because I'm not hungry after workout. And looking at adrenal health, do you find any guidelines there to like, oh, you just went paddling 2 hours, your heart rate's 190, maybe you need to eat something after so your body doesn't feel stress and help the recovery?
If I'm hungry, I'll eat for sure. I have beef jerky or I have stuff that I make. I may have a fat bar that I make.
Mhm.
It really depends on how hungry I am. I don't feel stressed at all when I come back. So I think because I don't have a neuro ring and I never had any of those gadgets, how I feel. So if I feel hungry, I'll definitely eat. I'm not counting. I'm not counting my metabolic rate. I mean, I do have my watch, but other than that, I'm just counting. I know how fast I'm going and how far I went. That's the only reason why.
Mhm. That's good. Okay, so other thing, last question I have on my list is some food options so people don't get bored and feel that it's not sustainable doing a more high fat carnivore. Any
I
suggestions
can
there?
only say, well, I think people miss creamy and crunchy. So you can make meat and fat creamy and crunchy. You can make eggs creamy. I really think that there are other ways to have fun. I mean, I even put myself through school as a chef, so I know cuisine, but it's nutrition. I think if you get hung up on that, you're still not, you're at a point where you need to think if your body's not able to make energy properly, if you
Hmm.
really do need a variety. To me, it's all about nutrition. Fish doesn't satisfy me. Chicken doesn't satisfy me. My husband likes chicken. He eats chicken. I feel really more nourished when I eat ruminant lamb or beef. But I can also once in a while maybe go to a different place and try a treat. That's not going to be a problem because I'm eating this way all the time. It's not going to throw a wrench in the works because I don't have anything to heal. Variety, there's plenty of animals out there. In Australia, you can eat kangaroo. It's ruminant apparently. So I think that people get hung up on all their choices. Your body just wants to be healthy and needs fuel.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. And on that, I just was researching this myself, but metabolic flexibility.
Yeah,
What, any thoughts? Fat versus carb metabolism?
yeah, I rather have a fat metabolism. So my brain, I do this because I don't want to get Alzheimer's. I
Hmm.
don't,
That's me.
my liver's not making sugar when I need it. I know it's making sugar when I'm at 192 and I'm pushing through, 7K.
Mm.
I'm
So
not,
no fear of inflexibility because your body
no,
will make it as a carnivore
no. Yeah,
gluconeogenesis.
yeah, because we evolved to eat this way. We evolved to have some stress
Hmm.
and get over it. We didn't evolve to have chronic stress.
Acute
Maybe
versus
that's why.
chronic.
Exactly.
Hmm. And in season berries or root vegetables, any of that, honey, that some people do more of the
Uh,
carnivore, animal-based
Ketovore.
carnivore, whatever, ketovore.
I think the least problematic would be berries. I think honey is terrible because fructose, it's really high in fructose, and it's gonna really get right to your liver. And what was the other one? So fruit, plants do, root vegetables, absolutely not. Um, Fruit, because fruit doesn't have any anti-nutrients. So animals want you to eat their fruit, because when you eat the fruit, you're going to go over there and poop, and there will grow another tree. But the leaves and the roots and the stems, those are full of anti-nutrients.
Mhm. Yeah, it's funny learning about this from, I don't know, 10 years or how many years has been since carnivore research on anti-nutrients come out, that I used to always eat salads. I'm sure a lot of people are saying that we were just like, are so healthy and having a big, huge bowl of salad. And I was never satiated. I was always hungry and needing to eat more. And but then you learn about the anti-nutrients, and it's so fascinating how just go back to what people used to do. It's like, oh yeah.
Actually, no, where I am eating is how people used to eat. Nobody used to
Yeah.
exercise, they used to work. Only the, I don't know, college Yale club people would play squash in the 40s and 50s. Everybody else was working. That was exercise. That was how you
Hmm.
moved your body. You were agile. You worked, or you walked, or you did chores, or you. So it's actually going back to how people used to do things, eating more meat and fat than you're talking about. The salad came in the 80s.
Yeah. Non-fat. We're non-fat was good time. Get your salad is all you should eat.
Right.
But yeah, it's funny. All right. So last little bit, what do you find is so common and what your people are trying to heal from? What are people coming to you for getting answers because no one else can help them? What do you find is common?
Uh, Things related to thyroid function, depression, vaginal dryness, hair falling out, joint pain, everything.
But it seems to all kind of correlate to low thyroid is what you're saying, the
Yeah.
common denominator.
Yes, definitely.
So you are working on your new thyroid book. And is that just kind of bringing in all the common questions and everything you keep hearing, what's troubled out there? What's your focus on the book?
Oh, yes, the importance, why thyroid is important, and why it is being addressed the way it is, how it was addressed previously, how it is addressed today, why that is, and how to address it. It's going to be a big book, so it's going to take a while.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of information. And supplementation, we didn't talk about at all, but what is your thoughts on people taking T3 supplement, or I've heard about T2 and taking these,
I would never recommend synthetics. I would only recommend natural desiccated thyroid. T2, yeah, because they found that it's actually important for cardiovascular function, but they saw, I know gym rats are taking it because they think that they went from T3 to T2 for metabolism, but it's synthetic, so don't take it. That's not gonna, your thyroid is supposed to make enough for you to convert from T4 to T3 to T2 and to T1 as well.
get it, the ingredients, the building blocks for making thyroid and what cofactors to help improve it, thyroid health. Combine that with how our lifestyle habits are and the right type of exercise. Is that kind
Hmm.
of the
Yeah.
magic formula?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
So nutrition, more fat and protein, because fat makes our hormones.
Mhm.
Building blocks, you get the selenium and the tyrosine from the food we eat, and the iodine from supplementating because we don't get that enough. Having our sea salt and getting more, like, what lifestyle habits, just stress management you're finding, just anything and specifically in lifestyle we need to add in,
I
sunlight,
think I think exercise should be fun. That's all. I don't think it should get you high.
endorphin high.
Yeah, endorphins are stress response.
Mm, that's a good
But they
point.
actually are. Yeah, it's a
Yeah, because you
stress
get that
response.
high after a hard workout. That's actually
Right. So
mm,
exercise shouldn't make you high.
should make you happy, not high happy.
Right.
You're right
Exactly. It should be
about.
fun.
Yeah, and lifting weights, lifting things, heavy things,
Yeah,
strength
that's good.
training.
Yeah, that's good.
Mm.
Yeah. Good to not, fall down and not break, build muscle.
Which I was working in our yard yesterday and I was moving some bricks and carrying them. I was like, this goes back carrying some rocks and big
Yeah.
pile of dirt, just working. And I always try to share free things because not everyone wants to go to the gym, and it just easy to do those exercise snack breaks throughout the day, movement throughout the day. I think is just important reminder, not just to work out in the morning and then sit all day isn't natural either.
Right.
But
Right.
getting in there.
It's true.
Good. All right. So where can people follow you and learn more and order all your books and read your blogs?
All my books are available on Amazon or anywhere books are sold, and my website is elizbright.com.
And your Instagram, you got hacks. We have a new Instagram handle people can
Yeah,
follow
we have a
you.
new Instagram. That was a big deal. Yep. I do stuff on Instagram. The other one's still there, but it's hacked, so all the
Yeah.
information is.
Good. Well, we look forward to your book, and I think it's important to just, take ownership of our health, and I keep talking about doing what you can do now to improve the aging process so your future self is going to be living the best life so we can go stand up paddleboarding in Italy, travel the world and do all this stuff that we should be able to do and thrive as we age, not struggle. And simple things as you're talking about, just iodine, eating more fat, protein, focus on your nutrition and how you eat and being more relaxed and having fun and not getting that endorphin high stress.
There
Too
you
much of
go.
everything.
Yeah.
Good. All right. Well, thank you, Dr. Bright. And we look forward to your new book coming out. Do you have a deadline for your book to be finished, your thyroid book?
Oh, it's going to be a while. No, I don't have. I'm just putting all the research together. All the things I say are not what they say, so it has to be really, really referenced really well.
Wow. Do you have a
Hope,
team helping you?
no, saw me, maybe a year.
Wow, good for you. Well, thank you for just keeping at it and following your passion of clearing up all the misconceptions of thyroid health and what women's and men's health too on our
Mhm.
hormones, because I think you're keeping it simple, keeping it real, being honest, and so we can get the real answers from you. So we appreciate that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Debbie.